Good evening. I'm going to call to order the November 4th, 2024 school committee meeting. This meeting is being held in person and/or remotely as an alternate means of public access pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023 and all other applicable laws, temporarily amending certain provisions of the open meeting law. You are hereby advised that this meeting and all communications during this meeting may be recorded by the town of Hingham in accordance with the open meeting law. If any participant wishes to record this meeting, please notify the chair at the start of the meeting in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20F, so that the chair may inform all other participants of said recording. We have Harbor Media here this evening. Thank you. And then we are recording on Zoom for purposes of the minutes. Is there anyone else who is recording? No. Okay. So we're going to move to item 2. 2.1 is the minutes of the school committee meeting held on October 21st.
I will make a motion to approve the minutes from the school committee meeting held on October 21st, 2024.
I will second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 2.2.
I will make a motion to approve the minutes of the school committee meeting with advisory committee held on October 30th, 2024.
I will second.
Any discussion?
Just my first name is misspelled under item 3.
Yeah. It just doesn't like, yeah.
Yeah, I
Spell
saw it
check.
correct.
My spell check does not like
Yeah.
writing your name.
Yeah.
It's run 1 and 3.
Oh, so 1. Oh, yeah, and 1, 2. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
Otherwise.
Okay. All right, other than that, any other comments or questions? Okay, so for the amended,
I will make a motion
okay.
to approve the minutes of the school committee with advisory committee held on October 30th, 2024 with the amended changes.
I will second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right, so item 3 is questions and comments. This is part of the meeting where we set aside about 15 minutes to take questions and comments that are not on tonight's agenda. Do we have anything? No. Okay, so I'm going to skip to item 4, which is superintendent's report. Katie Roberts.
Terrific, thanks, Tess. So as we previously shared, tomorrow is in fact Election Day, and all schools with the exception of Foster will not have a day of instruction tomorrow. Foster School, as you know, will have a day of instruction to make up for the moving day that we will have on January 2nd. And as we would in any year, an election is a terrific time to reinforce our civics curriculum, which is a K-12 curriculum. And so our classes will be engaged in age-appropriate activities this week related to the election and civic engagement. Included in your school committee folder this evening is the November staffing update. So we've been giving these monthly. You'll see that we are in actually very good shape with regard to staffing. One area, however, that we have had ongoing challenges is in staffing of school psychology positions. And this is a statewide phenomenon. So we continue to post widely for those positions, including reaching out to agencies. And we'll just continue to keep you informed as to any staffing challenges as we go throughout the year. Last week, I had the honor of chairing the HEF Spelling Bee for grade 3. So I was, in fact, the moderator, and a few of the trickier words for grade 3 included the words terrific, 2 R's, 1 F, and hippopotamus. But I was very proud of our students. They engaged in some really terrific teamwork and collaboration, which is really what it's all about. And very grateful to Hingham Education Foundation for their continued support of our programs. As I've mentioned in past meetings this year, they're going to have a focus on a grant that will be a multi-year initiative called Building Thinking Classrooms, which is inspired by the book by the same name. And so the grant funds will be used to transform our secondary mathematics spaces into spaces that are intended for collaboration, critical thinking, and to really foster collaborative problem solving. So again, many thanks to HEF for their support of not only the spelling bee, but also of our programs.
You should get pictures of that too.
Oh,
The
yes.
classrooms, yeah.
Yes, I will, at an upcoming meeting, we'll be sharing an update. At least 2 of the classrooms are transformed, look terrific, and the students have been very positive about their engagement in these newly designed spaces. So again, thank you to HEF for that. Mm-hmm. This past week, you should have received an email regarding a Portrait of a Graduate, Vision of a Learner survey. That survey went out to all parents, caregivers, and we also invite all community members, including school committee members, to fill out that survey if you have not done so already. Secondary students will be given an opportunity to take the survey themselves in class this week, and our educators will be given an opportunity to complete the survey during the early release on Wednesday. So thank you to the community in advance for their engagement in the Portrait of a Graduate, Vision of a Learner process. Our fall athletics teams have been wildly successful, and the fun continues this week. So as you are aware, our crew team brought home the state championship about a week ago, and so congratulations to our crew members. And this week, we have a very full lineup of tournament games, including, don't want to leave anyone out, field hockey, boys soccer, girls soccer, football, and volleyball all have tournament games this week. So wear your red and check out the app that the athletics department has. The Go Big Red app will keep you updated on all of the games and times and locations. If you happen to be in the neighborhood this weekend, I will be at the Hingham Farmers Market this Saturday. Heather Cashman, our communications specialist, and I will have kind of a meet the superintendent and a table, and so community members are welcome to come hear more about our programs. And so we look forward to seeing families and students at the market this weekend. And last but not least, wanted to thank Amy Jackson, our METGO director, for organizing a really terrific event on Saturday evening at the Zoo Lights in Boston. It was a beautiful night and a fun-filled event for our families. So,
I saw a picture, it looked amazing.
yes,
Yeah.
no, really beautiful. Oh.
Any questions? Okay, thank you very much. All right, so item 5.1, communications received by the superintendent, anything?
Yeah, so just one update. At our Saturday workshop earlier this year, I had shared with you a memo from the Operational Services Division, which each year sets the rate of inflation for our special education programming at the state level. They made an adjustment to that and just wanted you to be aware that they actually increased that rate to 3.67% from the rate that I had previously shared. So this is, in fact, a higher rate than previously shared.
Okay, great, thank you.
Before
All
we
right,
were happy-
5.2.
We were happy before that it was actually below our 3.5%.
Yeah, no.
That's a good point, Aisha. The student communications, Slater is not able to join us tonight, so we're going to move over to 5.3. Other communications, anything from the committee? No, okay. All right, so item 6, unfinished business, we don't have any this week, so we will move to item 7. 7.1, as we're chugging along here, we are actually going to table 7.1 to receive the school improvement plan for the Hingham High School. We will hear about that at a future meeting. 7.2, to receive a facilities presentation and act as appropriate. We've got Matt Meehan here, who is our new facilities director. He's been here before, but welcome and thank you.
Thank you. Matthew Meehan, Facilities Director. Today I'm going to be going over a roof assessment that was done by Habib and Associates. Habib and Associates is also here to answer any questions as well. Their detailed roof assessments of 3 of our buildings was incredible. I'm just here to kind of bring it forth. I did re-inspect the buildings myself, but their assessment is quite good. So they did an assessment on 3 schools, the Hingham High School, the Plymouth River School, and the South Elementary School. Just to note, the Hingham High School and South Elementary School, the last time their roofs were done, 1998 and 1999. Those schools were renovated at the exact same time. They're both the oldest schools in our district, around 1955 and 1958. The Plymouth River School, 1968. Many of their roofs were redone in 1999, but some of the roofs on the Plymouth River School are unknown of age. So they've been repaired, maybe not, maybe. So we're trying to figure that piece out. Both Habib and our roofing contractor agreed to that as well. So we're going to go through the roofing assessment. All of this work was done by Habib Associates, our architects and engineers. I just went with them, consulted with them, and presenting the information in a different way. Yeah, did you plug in my? I think you're going to have to do it. So let's look at the Hingham High School. Next slide. Their roofing system is shown here. It's an EPDM roof membrane. Basically, it's over some insulation and some glue. On top, below that is a roof structure and some insulation. Up against any kind of wall or surrounding or envelope. They have a little bit of a different detail, but I just wanted to show you the basics of that detail here. They do vary throughout the school, but I wanted to show you the basics of that roof system. Next slide. So what happens? Here I'm going to try to show very carefully. As these roofs age, the seams are very critical. Of course, there's going to be punctures and kind of age in this area here, but the seams tend to move water through the system. It happens to get inside of this insulation. That causes problems. We have freezing and thawing through our seasons, and water builds up onto the corrugated steel, which is a structural member, and then finally drips through our roof. So by the time we see it in our ceiling tiles, it's been there for quite a while. Typically, this happens during large rain events, but that doesn't mean that the water hasn't been there already. Saturated events bring the water down and pushes water through that may have already been there. So that's important to notice. Some of the impacts, and you're going to see this throughout all of our schools. Water damage can just be a ceiling tile. Most of the time it is, I have to admit. But there's mold and mildew that can build up if you don't catch it right away, or if we don't see it. Sometimes ceiling tiles don't show water intrusion. Electrical hazards, if they're dripping on top of a pipe, electrical service, or information technology infrastructure is very important too. You have increased utility bills with an open ceiling and an open roof or saturated materials. You don't get the quality and insulation that you typically have with a newer roof. The big one for me, I'm an educator, is educational disruption. You have a ceiling tile that fills up with water, falls down. Even if it's in a hallway, there's going to be some kind of disruption. When we were looking at these ceilings, we walked down the hall, I poked my head into the ceiling. At least 25 kids were like, oh my God, there's a man in the ceiling. So it's a disruption. And they're expensive repairs. We have, even the smallest of leaks has a huge impact on our operational budget. I wanted to take a closer look. So Habib's reports were excellent. I went out and did a re-inspection. Their reports were very comprehensive. They were done about 2 years ago. And I wanted to show you this seam. As you can see, it's very crackled, what looks like kind of something you see that's on an old automobile or something else. That's all sealant that has failed. So that's something that they put down to overlap something, and it's pulling apart and failing. I didn't see a single roof at the high school that did not have this problem. Neither did Habib. So the architects, engineers that looked at this roof were very concerned. You also see a kind of a peeling apart effect where the seams are no longer together, they're pulling apart. And you see ponding effects. Ponding is water that collects during a rain event or a snow event, and it just sits there. So sitting water is not a good thing for a flat roof. They need to get to those drains and move away. So it's really important that we look at this roof very closely. Here's some of the patches that we have. This sealant, cracked, crumbled, peeling up all the way around. This is throughout the entire roof. I didn't see a single patch that has been looking like this at all. Here's another membrane here. This is in the middle of a ponding area. You can see the white here is evaporated water, and in the middle of it is a seam. So water is getting through those seams as well.
Do you know how old the patches are?
The patches are, it depends. So periodically, we have our roofer go up and patch some significant leaks. Those are the ones that are actively dripping. We have one at Plymouth River right now. They'll patch it, it stops, and then a couple months later, another one will open up. So there's no real way to indicate that. We can go through records, but there's quite a few of them. There's other evidence I'll show at the end that indicates how many of these leaks that we have per year. This is only the high school. We're looking at some more seams along the edges here, cracked sealant. This is the kind of the raised roof that we see down into the library. There's water intruding between the brick and some precast members. The precast members were identified, corrected. Now there's more that are separating. There's no mortar inside of this, and that's up on top of the roof as well. There's also quite a few areas where there's kind of a bubbling effect occurring. That's an indicator of moisture below the surface of the membrane that will eventually come up, either as evaporated water or expand the insulation below it and the glue below it and kind of blow up a little bit, or the insulation below it has failed and it kind of pulls down and then comes back up. And that's quite a few areas. Over in this picture here, you see kind of a groove. That's where water is kind of tunneled its way through something below it. Ponding is indicating here. Ponding is that big problem. And right next to it is that air bubble that comes across. There's also this kind of interface between some kind of flashing, or maybe there's a brick parapet here, but that may be a water intrusion on this line as well. This is the impact. So let's take a closer look. This is one of our IDF rooms. It's near the library. It's also where our internet comes into the building. And right above it are some staining that's going on. This was caught right away by our team. They went up on the roof and corrected it. This didn't happen too long ago. This is another area in the gym. It's right above an HVAC unit. Another area in one of our shops, cafeteria. These are all relatively recent. Let's look at the overall impact. The average number of ceiling tile replaced per year is about 36. That's 3 cases. So ceiling tile comes in a case, depending on what size it is. These are 2x2. They'll come in cases of 24 or 12. We go through about 36 a year. So they're finding about 36 leaks a year. The number of acres our roof covers, 3.89, 4 acres. That's a large building. 2 stories high, spread out, beautiful building. The red indicates what Habib has indicated as poor roofing conditions. The green is that pop-up. There's some problems along the outside and this little green building over here. The rest of it is poor. Poor means kind of in the red. We're not in the orange. We're not in the kind of green or yellow area. We're in the red. It needs to be replaced right away. There's other alternatives we can speak of, but more or less, even this area down here, I don't know if anybody remembers this, 2018, I believe it was, there was a windstorm, very strong. This part of the roof peeled off. That's an indication of also a failing roof. And what it looks like is this area was put back on, really patched really well. But as you can see, they look almost the same. Almost 100% of our roof membrane is rated poor. So this is the roof that we're really focusing on. Next slide. Let's look at PRS.
You want to ask any questions?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Anybody have any
I think
questions
it's-
about the roof?
Had some personal experience of the high school roof, so my prior office in the science math wing, I would regularly have damp ceiling tiles, stained ceiling tiles, and really along the whole math science hallway. So I've lived it personally.
Yeah. A lot of the leaks occur during heavy rainstorms or snowstorms. Teachers come in and they report them and they get corrected, but only for the roof tile. Or they'll leave the roof tile open and put a garbage barrel underneath to collect the rain ceiling tile, until the roof problem is corrected.
I've seen the barrel outside the,
PRS school.
not PRS, but the hallway of the athletics, right near the gym in high
Yes.
school, yeah.
Yeah.
With the front entryway.
Yeah.
So I was just gonna, it kind of answers Tim's question about the patching. It wasn't the patching, but it wasn't the summer, I believe it was the summer before, that they reinforced a lot of the seams around the entire roofing. I remember that being on the capital list. But, and that was only a little over a year ago, and now we're at 100%, the sealants have failed.
Yeah.
So patching isn't
Yeah.
a solution.
Yeah, we can discuss that more. We met with Habib today, and they're, you can extend the roof life, not for long. And it's how much you want to invest in where, really, what it comes down to.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you.
Let's look at PRS. So we moved through PRS, and I'm just going to describe the roofs a little bit more. The roof at PRS is a built-up roof. These are typically pretty resilient over time. Basically, you have a roof deck, insulation, and then you have tar paper, and then some kind of felt or asphalt binding them together. A lot of people call this tar. It's really asphalt. And then finally on top, it's usually 3 layers or 4 layers. You have aggregate, stone, usually rounded, that kind of keeps the roof in place over time, and it adheres. What happens with a roof like Plymouth River, and go to the next slide. The same thing. Eventually, along those seams, along the kind of detail along where the roof meets the flashing, you get water intrusion, you get the saturation of the insulation, you get water into the corrugated metal, and you have the same impacts that the high school has as well. Next slide. Here are some detailed pictures. Just along this bottom, these are the problem areas at Plymouth River. These flat roofs hold water. We had a call from the head custodian at Plymouth River. I had a team report out there with myself, and there was a significant pond on top of the roof that was not draining into the hole, so we did everything we could. A lot of details along these flashing areas. All of this patchwork is failed. Here's some of the aggregate failed patchwork. This is kind of some aluminum or copper flashing. Underneath it has failed. So water can intrude in this at any time. Peel back the rocks just a little bit. All the tar on the top layer is failed. I say failed, that's a technical term. It doesn't mean the water's not, it's just not going in. It just means it needs to be repaired. Again, some couple of other close-up shots. Some of this older patchwork is failed. You can see up here, relatively new. This is a newer strip, but below it is kind of older. There's some cracking going on as well. This is an area that we had repair recently. Here's a patch. Here's some kind of seam work. Here's some older work. So that all of this stuff is kind of a mosaic of patchwork on the roofs. Next slide. Along the drains, you have a built-up aggregate. They do a good job with trying to keep these things clean, but underneath you see the asphalt or tar that's failed. 2 roofing systems. Here's the asphalt or tar. There's no aggregate on it. All cracked up, ready to go, and even the new layer of kind of seam work here. And this is EPDM. So they tried to seal these too, but you see cracking along this as well. So they're older seals. Next slide. This is what it looks like. So Habib, all the slanted roofs are in fair condition, which means they'll last a little bit longer. All the flat roofs are in need of significant repair. You can see areas like this. This is about a 20 by 20 area that was patched recently. And there's another one right behind, hiding behind this roof here. Those little patches, we have one coming in right now because there's a large area here that's going to be patched soon. Run on average of $25,000 to $35,000 just for a patch. They came up and tried to patch this area. They put 3 patches down, cleared out the area. It didn't work. So you go up on a roof like this and you're guessing where the water's coming in. So if it works, great. If it doesn't, you have to repatch a very large area and it's very costly. Next slide. Let's look at South. South is a very complicated roof. It has typical shingles you would find on a home. It has metal roofs, and it has rubber membrane roofs all over. Here's some kind of details that you can look at. Same problem. Next slide. The impacts are the same as the high school. You have water moving through whatever kind of roofing system it is, saturating all of the insulation and then dripping through. By the time it saturates the insulation, there's already a problem. Even if it doesn't go through the roof, it's an issue. Big difference between the high school and South. This is the membrane on the main roof at South. This roof was built the same time as the high school. Notice the seam on this is still very good. They used a different company, I believe, same type of roofing material. Even the seams on the old part of the roof are okay. They're not too bad, and the patches are pretty good too. So a lot of these roofs are rated fair, which means they're beyond their life, but you still have some life left in them. Next slide. There are some issues. There's a lot of soft spots around the roof. There's a little bit of tears everywhere. This is a big soft spot. There's some roofing patches that really need to be addressed, especially on a lower part of the roof. That's the older part of the building, 1955. But a lot of the roof is in fair condition. Next slide. These are some of the shots of the north face of the gables at South. These are typical shingle tabs that you would find on your home. As you can see, a lot of deterioration is around the bottom part. These are all north-facing roofs. North in the winter in New England, prevailing wind is hitting them, water, rain, it's going to cause a lot of problems. These roofs are 25 years old. So if you can think about a roof on your own home, they last, I think they're guaranteed for about 30 years. This is at its life. Next slide. So let's look at all of the roofs at South. Most of them are in fair condition. Needing of repair, especially along the inside here where it probably doesn't see a lot of sun We have a lot of buildup of organics. And these two roofs here, which don't see a lot of sun and face that northern exposure and buildup of material in here. This is an older part of the school. This part of the roof sees a lot of exposure to sun, and there's a lot of wear and tear on that roof as well. So overall, most of the roof is fair, but we have some issues there as well. Let's look at some recommendations. Replace the high school roof. The construction cost is $11.2 million. Total costs, soft costs are included in that. That's engineering fees, remediation, anything else that we have to do. Construction monitoring would be about $14.6 million. There's also advantages. PV, green roofs, white roof, reflects heat, improved sustainability. You could also go with some kind of green roof as well. And a lot of these options will extend the overall life of the roof. Going with a new roof, you have options. You can go with a standard 20-year roof, 35, 50-year. You can really extend the lifetime of this building. It is a beautiful building, and the only thing that right now, outside the envelope, in the roof, that needs to be repaired, not much. We can really do a lot of work with the roof. Next slide. Replacing south and the PRS roofs have their costs as well. Construction costs at south, $4,407,000, 6.1 for total costs, 4.1 for south. Notice the difference in cost is a lot less. Total cost is 5.3. Again, the same benefits. You could PV these roofs, you can green these roofs, and you would have significant advantages in heating and cooling costs as well.
Was that the cost for replacing all of the roof or just the parts that are failing?
That's, for each one of those, that's the entire roof.
Okay.
Yep. So to replace the parts that are failing, that is just patching.
Okay.
So it's going through with a professional company, moving through all the seams, looking at all the interfaces between the brick, the masonry, making sure that all that's fixed. There's no guarantee that it will not fail again, or that you'll have another leak somewhere where they didn't catch that.
Matt, can I ask you a quick, the estimated cost that you're showing tonight, that's the updated numbers, correct?
Yes.
Yes, and are those, you had said there's different types, some it could be a 20, a 30, a 50. What range is this?
Yes, that's a good question. There are different, PVC roofs. Those are the white roofs you see around that are newer. There's different types of layers. So the thicker the layer, the more warranty you have on the roof. And the costs go up for initial roof costs. That's something for Habib to discuss, actually.
Yeah, you can, the budgets that have been established will easily get a 30 or 35-year warranty.
Okay. And then my second question, we had talked about this earlier today, but I just wanted to, because I think the committee would like to hear about the solar panels. I know when we had, that's always an initiative of the town.
Yes.
And what the process is for that, if we need to, it's my understanding that you can't necessarily get that answer right now. You have to find out the structure of the roof itself, not necessarily the shingles, right, but the actual structure of the roof to see if it can handle the capacity for the solar panels.
That's correct. There's several different ways to install PV. PV is photovoltaic or solar panel arrays. Most are ballast based. That's where they just take a crane and they put up kind of these racks that solar panel ballast, or the roof can hold that ballast. Many times older roofs can. Sometimes they have to do a complete structural analysis. So somebody like Habib would have to go up there and be like, yes, they can hold them, or we suggest you do this. The other type is tying directly into the structural components of the roof or the columns in the building and penetrating the roof. But that also comes with some problems as well. They could have, as you imagine, you're poking holes in the roof. Now you have to really detail those holes and make sure they hold as well. There is some research out there that says if you don't expose a roof to UV, the sun, all the time, the lifetime of that roof can be extended. But that's not something that is clear. It's just something that is set out there. It's also, as you have these rains and snow and everything else, and you drain it properly, you can really channel that water away right away with solar panels versus just having a flat roof, and that can extend a roof as well. So there's some benefits there. The biggest benefit is you're sealing up a roof that right now is not sealed. So you'll have heating and cooling benefits almost immediately. If they find any insulation below it, or a full roof replacement would include a lot of this, you would really save a lot of money in heating and cooling costs in a building.
Tim?
This is a really dumb question, I'm sorry in advance, but it seems like a lot of the problems with the roof are from the fact you have these huge stretches of flat roof where the water doesn't pool. Would it ever be cost effective to add an architectural element to put a slight slant in it?
All of them have slight slants, actually. They're
Okay.
pitched, actually towards, there's 24 roofing systems on the high school. They're all pitched towards drains that drain down from the roof. Increasing those pitches really wouldn't do much, except in a, major storms or something like that, but those are once in 50-year, 75-year, 100-year storms, and they're going to be a problem anyway.
Okay.
They are all pitched, usually slightly. You can't even tell they are until you go up on a roof, and then you're like, oh, there's some significant pitch up here. You can actually see it. It kind of extends down towards the drainage points.
Carrie?
Yeah, so the costs of these, does that include the sustainable roofs, the PVC, the green roofs? Is that kind of factored into that too?
No, not at all.
So it would be in addition to?
It would be.
Okay.
Yep.
And then the other question, and I don't need an answer to this right now, but do you have an estimate somewhere about per year on these buildings?
There's a wide range, typically between $15 and $20 per square foot. There's 3.89 acres, that's 169,000 square feet at the high school. 100% of the roof needs to do that. So you're looking at a range between, $2.5 million, between $2.5 million and $3.8 million.
Per year?
As a patching fix, that really wouldn't, you wouldn't really extend the life of the roof. You would just make sure that that was done, and you don't know whether it's going to correct the problem or not.
Right, yeah.
You don't know if it's gonna fix the leaks.
Exactly, yeah.
You could have a leak the very next day after it's done.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think you were asking, what do we pay every year
Yeah.
to keep them, like,
Oh,
Yeah.
like on
yeah.
an annual
We
basis, what are our
we
costs?
typically ask for capital around $50,000 a year. I think we've exceeded that for the last, according to just looking at the books, I've only started in July. I've looked back 3 years. Roof repairs have exceeded that number almost every year.
And that's per school.
Per school, yeah.
Yeah, that's for the
That's
The
the
in-
three, I think.
that's for the entire district.
Yeah.
A roof patch at PRS was $868 just for a patch. So you extend that over all the roofs, it's quite expensive per year. And you're not correcting the problem.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, that's just something when we talk this with the town and everything is, at what point are we just, putting good money after bad, and kind of like with Foster, so.
I'd also just like to remind everyone of a cautionary tale back in 2011 when the middle school roof failed and the significant disruption that caused to students' learning experience. So I think we have our very own cautionary tale built into our history here.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
Katie had mentioned that.
We're trying to remember that date today.
2011.
I guess it's 2013, I was.
And I think it also, beside the actual disruption to the education for the students and the staff and the families, I think it also, it scared people. I mean, that could have been disastrous.
Yeah.
We were lucky that the school was closed, so I think it really sort of woke people up that we need to repair these roofs when we need to repair these roofs.
Yeah, I think if you think about any time water intruding on an envelope, whether it's the side of the building or especially the roof, that water is going to settle inside of the roof before you even see it on the ceiling tile. It's going to cause issues. And if it's something that's reoccurring over time, there's going to be, like if you pop a tile and you look up at the roof, there might be some surface rust, but you just don't know. So it's something that you really need to consider when you're trying to think about a roof that's at its age.
And Matthew was kind enough to give this presentation to Joe Fisher, and Joe had lined up a room full of people, including HMLP and Laura Burns, to talk about the solar part of it. But Katie had mentioned the tale of the middle school Repeat the answer that you gave me so that everybody can hear this.
Quite frankly, no. It's a very large building, and we just simply do not have the capacity to house those students in other buildings. So, absorbing an elementary school into the high school on a temporary basis would be one thing, but there is simply nowhere for the high school students to evacuate to that we could conduct education in any kind of meaningful way.
Learned that a lot during COVID.
Yes.
Yeah.
Any other questions before I open it up to the public? Because I know we've got some interested parties here. No. All right. Does anybody online have any questions? I'm seeing no hands. Okay. All right. Thank you. I appreciate it. All right. We have some discussions to have, I think, on what we want to do and propose to move forward. Thank you, Matthew. Thank you, Habib. So I did put on the agenda to act as appropriate. We, as a school committee, have our responsibility is to figure out what needs that we have in order to propose whether we move for a warrant article at the town meeting. Select board ultimately makes that decision, but I thought I would open it up for discussion tonight.
I'll start.
Okay.
Well, I guess the question is, do we want to do one roof? 3 roofs? I think the recommendation from what I'm hearing is the high school is the priority. So if anyone has any.
And I think what I
thoughts,
heard from Matthew.
I would, I'm all for putting a warrant article for replacement at the high school. But if anyone else.
The
has any
combination
other
of the
thoughts on
dire
combination of the
situation.
3, I get nervous if we were to do 3, quite honestly. But, because it looks to me that the high school is the priority. But I think we do need to have a plan going forward. And are we going to do next year? Are we going to do the next 2? Because those are also in need.
High school seems dire.
Yes, agree.
Is there any way we can apply for the MSBA for the other 2 the following year? Is
The
that,
MSBA
So we would apply
program,
this,
if it
first
does,
January is when it
yeah.
opens.
okay.
If it does open this January, it's
Mhm.
on a 2-year, a 1-year delay. So it wouldn't be until 2017 that the next year, that would be
27.
27.
sorry, 27, going back in time, huh? To make it right.
When you apply, say you were to apply
27.
in January, you don't hear until
Till December.
November,
Yeah.
December.
Yeah.
And then to actually do the roof replacement, it's my understanding you have to do it during the summertime. So then you have to,
Makes sense.
whatever the summer is, then you have to go to town meeting. And then the summer, I don't think you could do it the summer after town meeting. I don't know if that's enough time to get all the bids in. I don't know. So maybe you're looking at another 3 years.
Oh, potentially another year.
And not only that too, but all of the projects that we look back to see the record of how many project, what type of projects were accepted into the MSBA. And for the last year, when it started, it said all projects were open for all projects are over 25, roofs above over 25 years. And then when it finally was, who actually got in, they were roofs above 30 years. And unfortunately, the high school roof does not fall into that over 30-year category. So our chances of being accepted would be slim for the high school roof. In terms of, so if we didn't get accepted this time around, it would mean waiting another couple years before we would get accepted again.
I think Carrie's saying.
For the other two.
For the other two.
Yeah, not
For the other
asphalt.
two,
Yeah, for the
it would
other
be
two.
2027 would be the next time that we would be open for PRS and also.
And it repairs we just did at PRS with, like, does that exclude us from,
I don't think so.
no, different grant program? Okay,
It's the same accelerated program,
right,
but I don't think I think the age of the roof is really the determining factor.
okay.
Is there any cost savings to doing all three at once? Like, is
I mean,
there any
in terms
discount?
of doing 3 at once, there probably would be some. I don't know if probably wants to chime in. In terms of doing all 3 roofs at once, would there be a cost saving associated with that?
Well, the sooner you replace them,
Yeah,
means that you're saving money in essence, because every year that they go on, the price is going to go up. Just as we would expect, labor costs go up, material costs go up. So, the budgets that have been presented are based on something occurring in the relative near future. So if you think about it from that perspective, you can expect that it will cost more over time.
Plus the temporary patching that we
Right,
plus
yeah,
in the
yeah.
meantime,
Expenses
so
you were
it-
bringing up earlier, right.
I think if you also did a request for proposals or an RFP for all 3 roofs to be done, and put it out to bid, so that means somebody would be requesting or responding to that request for all 3 roofs, the unit price would be depressed. So it would have its nominal savings as well.
And I think I heard when you first got here, you thought PRS was in dire need, but then you saw the high school.
After walking in the high school, and really looking at those seams, I didn't show some pictures because I was really trying to just show you exactly what I saw. Some pictures, you can literally just faintly take your fingers and peel back a seal. So water, and it's damp underneath, so water's getting in a lot of places, which we know, because the ceiling tiles are wet. But, in speaking with institutional knowledge, Matt Conway, and some of my maintenance staff, they're dealing with these issues for quite some time, and when you see it in the ceiling tile, it's already been there for quite some time, and it's made its way through the roof. It could have been migrating along, and it's sitting in that insulation. That's the issue.
I think, clearly, the high school is just, I think we all agree that's a given. I would think that but I do lean towards trying to get them all done now, because I think just the longer we wait, the more expensive it's going to be, and the potential for additional problems that could create significant disruption. But I would think that possibly what we want to do, though, is have them broken into 2 warrant articles, one for the high school, to really express how dire that situation is, and then the other two into mildly less dire, just, and see what the townspeople say, right? If they are supportive of funding the full repairs for all three, but at least we have, I think, a very solid chance of the high school at least being approved.
I like
Yeah,
that
I
idea.
think
Like
that's
the
a good
concern
idea.
that we were talking about at our finance meeting is if we put one on now and then we put on another one in a year or two, and then people are gonna be like, we just did that. Why are we
Right.
on this again?
Right.
Or if you put all three and it doesn't pass.
Yeah,
So
right.
so
Jeopardize
I
high
really
school.
I really like that suggestion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
I do too. Listening to in the finance meeting on this one, I just want to make sure I'm tracking. If I'm just using grading terminology. Sounds like the high school's an F. A F.
It's, yes.
PRS, in the original meeting, I guess I was viewing PRS as a lot closer to the high
I
school, like
believe
more like a D
PRS to be,
minus.
yeah. It's,
And South more like a C. But, I mean, is that wrong? Are PRS and South like, I guess I viewed PRS closer to the high school.
I think if I had to rank them, high school absolutely number one to be replaced, PRS in line, and we'll be repairing that roof until it's replaced every single year, especially on the flat areas. And then South, we have to address those north-facing issues, but yes, if you want to look at the high school as an F, PRS is really close behind.
I mean, I guess that's right.
D-range.
What I was wondering, I like your approach, but what I was wondering is there a scenario that you try and get the high school and PRS done, and you sort of hold out hope that we get 3 more years of South, and that's more, something like that.
Yeah.
But I don't feel strongly about that. I just,
Can we do, what would the patchwork entail that's South, or would you just hold off on South?
I would recommend what Habib recommends, which is every roof that is rated poor, replace. So you don't replace a single side of a gable roof. So those gable roofs would need to be replaced. That kind of northern side on each of those buildings would need to be significantly patched, along with that south part of the old building, significantly patched or overlaid. So that's $15 to $20 per square foot. And there's no real, you're just patching, so a new area could come up. You're not really extended the roof, you're just making sure that the things that are occurring right now are sealed up and done. Something else could pop up. All the roofs are beyond their warranty, that's 20 years. They're all at their life. So that's what we need to consider. 1998, 99 are when these 2 buildings, south and the high school, were completed. That's when the roofs were completed. There might be some kind of leeway in between because they were built in phases, but the roofs are essentially beyond their life. PRS, some, including Habib and our roofing contractor, have no idea how old the flat parts of the roof are. There's no indication in plans, as-built plans. As-built are plans that architects and engineers put out after they do repairs. The slanted parts of PRS were done in 1999, but they were just, like Habib was explaining, kind of peeled back a couple of layers and relayered them. So they weren't completely replaced, they were kind of topped over.
I think I feel comfortable doing
The high school.
the high school and then what Michelle had suggested.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Because then if we need to, then
After, going through the recommendations.
If PRS is that much worse than South, do we want to consider 3 different proposals, 3 warrant articles?
I feel like that, I see the value in that, but I also feel like for some reason lumping them together, it might be easier to, to get people's arms around it.
I wouldn't want it to be like a competition between.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know.
Right.
And then also a town meeting, like, they're trying to fix
Let's
it.
approve the 2 cheaper ones and
Yeah.
not approve the
Yeah.
expensive one.
That's true.
Yeah.
But if we, explain the urgency on the high school, and then the others are right behind it, even if the second one doesn't pass, we still have an opportunity.
We can still
to come back
resubmit it the
following
following year and say,
Right.
well, it still needs to be done.
Right,
It's a
and
way
we
to
spent
socialize
this
it.
much
Yeah.
in the interim fixing.
Yeah.
Mhm. I like that idea.
Yeah.
And I think it would be good, to bring forth some of the expenses each year that we're paying, to just kind of patch them and fix them in between, because that's relevant too.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds like we have consensus. Somebody want to make a motion?
I'll do this on the fly here.
I have, I pulled up the language for our requirement as a school committee. I don't know if that will help. If you can see it. Right here. So we could propose, present the warrant article.
Okay. Do we want to do a motion for each one?
Yeah.
All right. I will make a motion to propose a warrant article for April 2025 Hingham Town Meeting for a full roof replacement at the high school.
Well, second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
I'll make a motion to propose at town meeting April 2025, bring forth a warrant article for a full roof replacement at Plymouth River School and South Elementary School.
I will second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay. All right. Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you.
Thank you, Habib. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so I think Aisha's going to be doing a lot of talking coming up. 7.3, to discuss rates for bus monitors and act as appropriate.
Okay. Last year about this time, we had done a similar increase in terms of looking at the increases in the monitor rates for, thank you, Matt, thank you, Steve.
Thank you very much.
Yes. In terms of increasing the van and bus monitor rates from 1845 to 19, and for the Metco monitors from 20 to 21. We discussed in the past the differential between the Metco buses and the vans that we use, just because there are more kids on the buses. A lot of times the monitors, we're competing with directly Boston in terms of employees, trying to get them employed. And we're on the highway and taking the kids on the highway, where most of our van drivers are internal to town. So we're just suggesting that the same thing that we've done over the last few years. Okay. And then in the case of the wheelchair monitors, there's a little bit of a bump ahead of the regular van rates for the monitors, because there's more that they need to do in terms of getting the wheelchairs off the vans and then getting them back on again and making sure that they're on while the bus driver may be doing other parts of, there are multiple kids on a van as well too. So in the same way, our bus wheelchair van drivers get a little bit of a bump because of that extra that is required of them. We want to extend the same thing to our monitors as well too.
Any questions? No? Does anybody in the public have any questions? No. Okay. Somebody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to increase the rate for bus monitors to $19 for regular bus van monitors, to $21 for the Metco monitor, and to $20.50 for the wheelchair monitor for the school year September 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2025, and to pay any bus monitors who worked prior to November 4th, 2024, a retroactive pay adjustment.
Second?
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay. All right. And then 7.4, to discuss rates for custodial/maintenance substitutes and act as appropriate.
Okay, thank you. In terms of the custodial substitutes, we haven't had increases for the last couple of years into the substitute rates. So we're proposing an increase on the short-term rate from 1751 to 1850, and for the long-term rate for those custodians over 30 days, from 1957 to 20.5. In the last few years, we had a lot of people who were out on various leaves, and while we still have people out more on a short-term basis, we don't have as many long-term people being out right now. So it really, with most of our custodials, would be short-term going forward, unless something dire were to happen.
Do we have any issues finding custodial staff?
Yeah, I mean, the subs, yes,
Yeah.
but in terms of, so that will help in terms of those increases of rates, but we actually, in terms of our maintenance and custodial staff, for a long time, we haven't had full number of people, and we actually have a full slate of everybody right now.
Okay.
Mhm.
Any questions? Any questions from the public? Okay. That, does somebody want to make a motion?
I will make a motion to approve an increase in substitute leave for custodians effective November 4th, 2024.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Okay, so then 7.5 is to discuss the contract for construction bid for the dock and act as appropriate. 7.6 is to authorize the superintendent to execute the construction contract for the dock and act as appropriate. And 7.7 is to discuss the pledge document for the dock and act as appropriate. I'm going to have Aisha take all of those together and give us an update.
Okay, and then, and to add to that, there was also like a grant part of it as well, too.
Oh,
Yes.
okay, yeah.
So I think we can probably lump it all together.
The 7.8,
Yeah.
okay.
One thing I'd like to start off with is that I think the one thing that we would like to move forward with tonight would be just to accept the grant, the grant from the Hingham Sports Partnership for the 1.568 million. That one we are able to do tonight.
Okay.
Because the construction costs have basically come in at that amount, and then we've received 280,000 of that so far. So it's only the 1.2 million that would be the additional amounts that we would need. We can fund the whole project, and once we have ironed out those pieces, we can come back to get your approval on execution of the contract, and in terms of the pledge agreement as well.
Okay. Okay, so,
Okay. So is it the one, we've already approved
280.
280.
So it'll
and
just be the
22, so it wouldn't be
1.2.
1.5, it'd be with the 1.2.
0.2.
yeah, and so if you go through the document, so the bid came in for the entire project, and the total amount hasn't yet been raised. So we need to talk to the town to figure out this pledge agreement in order to see if there's an ability for the town to help float the money while the pledge agreements have been received, and that's going to happen over 3 to 5 years. So until we have that, I don't think we can I don't think we can approve to have Katie execute the contract until we know how the entire project is going to be covered. So as Aisha alluded to tonight, that maybe we can just accept the amount that HSB has gotten to date as a donation, and then once we finalize, Aisha had put in a call to town council. Once we get town council to communicate back to us, we can give another update at another meeting and do those other pieces.
Yeah, I mean, just on the other hand, too, the Hingham Sports Partnership, in terms of the people that we've been working with, both in terms of we have weekly calls, and some of the volunteers have been so helpful in terms of the hours that they've been putting in, both in terms of demolition gifts that they've provided to us, and in terms of their time. So we're very appreciative for that, for sure. But I think in terms of it's just a matter of going through the steps of making sure that everybody's comfortable, and then we can move forward with that final piece.
And in the memo, you'll see, it's talking about comparing this to the field project. So it's just tying up that piece. This is, I hope that we can make this work because they're donating an entire building. And so, why would we not make this work until those pledges are actually received? And HSP would go through the process of getting a line of credit. So we just need to kind of work out those details and report back to you once we have that done.
So we're just going to accept the 1.27
Yep, as a gift.
donation?
Yep, exactly.
As is, okay.
Yep.
I won't
Thank
read the
you.
whole thing then.
Does anybody have any questions before we do?
So, how much, I'm trying to go through all this, but how much more do we think they need to raise?
So they have about $90,000 in pledges that are going to be coming in from donors, and then HSP would then be getting another $200,000 line of credit to cover anything that isn't raised. They suspect they will raise the additional amount before it even needs to be paid. They just don't have it in hand yet. There is an additional $100,000 in the budgeted amount for contingencies, but they don't suspect that we'll end up needing to use that.
Okay.
But that's not part of the.
I thought somebody said
So that's-
1.2 million
that's
earlier, but
I know,
that's
sorry,
not.
yes.
I just misread that. Or-
Yeah, so if you look at, there's a document in there that shows the entire budget. The entire budget is the 1.568. That doesn't include the $5,000 of the
Testing.
testing fee, and it doesn't include the $100,000 contingency fee. To date, we've received $280,000. There was a $22,000 amount that was donated for the demolition, and then the 1.2 is the additional funds that HSP has raised.
So that's actually a question though, because it says, originally when we had written up a motion prior, we had said 1.27 in the form of cash, donor pledges, and tri-party pledge agreement. So that, to me, implies that that's the full 1.27, which means they don't have the full 1.27
Right,
yet. So-
exactly.
So should we put in an amount of $270,000 less?
Well, I guess the only thing about it is that the gift of the gift is really the building that we're getting, and it comes to the whole 1.568. So if it is that we're getting the gift, I don't think it would be for any less than what the gift is,
So
right?
it's the value of the gift as opposed to the cash?
The cash itself, yeah.
So do we need to amend that to accept a donation?
No, I'm just going to read the first part.
Yeah.
Before we do, does anybody in the public have any questions or comments? No, okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, Michelle?
Kind of, not really. I'm
I know,
I'm
you're
still
so-
sort of missing the math here. So
Which document are we, sorry,
that's what I'm
there's so many
trying to
documents.
The last, the memo, the
The
doc.
doc, it's doc 11-4-24, HSP donation doc, 7.8,
7 point, it was like
and it's a
9.
memo.
There's a lot of 7.8. Sorry, 7.8, there's like 4,
Next one.
5, 7.8. 7.8.
The doc.
The
Oh,
doc.
That's
Else.
November
Keep
4th.
on. So it looks like this.
yeah, but, all right, but, yeah, I have, so doc 11-4-20.
Yeah, okay, got it.
There we go. Okay, thank you. There was another grant thrown in there that threw me off.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Okay. Okay. All right, so HSP has about $1,070,000 collected.
Exactly.
Okay.
So would it be, do we want to do $1,070,000?
I mean, I guess we could delay it until we have all the information in, but the value of the gift is not going to change, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we're accepting the donation.
Right.
And it's up to them how they
They fund the donation.
They fund it.
Mhm.
Okay. Ready?
Yes.
All right, I will make a motion to accept a donation from the Hingham Sports Partnership in the amount of $1,271,000 $1,512, which will fund the construction and completion of the dock project.
I will second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Thank you. Thank you, Aisha, for your time. Thank you, HSP, for this extremely generous gift. We are very excited.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very
Yes.
good. We're grateful.
Okay. All right. So moving on to 7.8. Are there any other donations?
I think there's one more,
Yes.
which is a grant. I don't know, Katie.
Yes, so we received word that our Hingham High School robotics team received a generous grant from BAE Systems, and in the amount of $2,000. So that will help our team participate in the first league this year.
Any questions?
They ever find a place to store their equipment that was in the old?
Yes, so we have been working with the robotics team and have found a spot on site, so
Awesome.
that we're in good shape.
Any questions from anyone in the public? Okay.
I will make a motion to accept the first grant of $2,000, which will be applied to the
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Okay, so 7.9 to approve surplus and act as appropriate.
Yes, so we have two surplus items, well, not two surplus, but two surplus documents in here. One for library books from the high school, the high school librarian is going through a weeding process. And we also have the depot where Matt and his team are basically trying to clean up that, the depot storage area to try to make space for anything coming from Foster, as well as vehicles for Porrick for transportation as well. So as you would see the pictures and everything else, there's a lot of stuff that is no longer usable, and we're just asking to your approval to accept it as to decommission those items. And we will continue to see more of those coming our way as there's cleanup happening at both Foster and at the depot.
Great.
Did they ever determine if they could reuse the lockers?
I think we kind of buried that idea,
Okay.
just because the cost of removing it from Foster, the possibility that there may be, because it's so old, when you pull those lockers, there may be asbestos and other things behind there as well. I would have to then, just the cost of doing that, maybe even more than trying to save it.
Okay.
So we decided to, after getting much feedback from that idea, to abandon that idea.
They weren't going to put them in the new building, they're thinking of one of the elementary schools. All right.
But we will have, a lot of people have been asking though, we will have a shopping day at Foster,
Okay.
where the different principals and directors will get an opportunity to walk through the Foster building, to tag the things that they would want to keep.
Oh, nice.
So then, if anybody's worried about things going to waste or anything like that, that will not be happening. We'll be repurposing anything that can be repurposed.
John Ferris get the boiler?
Yeah.
Tim and I are working on a
Built it in his
ceremony.
basement.
Yeah.
Even the central
Shoot
office
it.
staff are very excited about getting new chairs, because some of the chairs have like tape around them and everything else. So it'll be very great to be able to get any chairs that can be used. So, yeah.
All right.
All right.
I will make a motion to declare a surplus library books from the Hingham High School Library listed and to authorize the high school librarian to dispose of them at the least cost to Hingham.
I will second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay, great. All right.
And then,
Moving,
and then
oh,
the-
sorry,
I just
yes.
took the wrong-
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Now moving on to item 8, thank you. All right, subcommittee and project reports and warrants signed. Matt?
Katie gave my half update.
Sorry.
No.
That was such a fun event, I loved it. Mhm. Tim?
Human Rights Commission met last Monday. Other than that, nothing.
Salary negotiations met on Friday.
Great.
High School Council met last week. There was a parking presentation by Officer Ford and Nicole Nosik and Nicole Piantes. And we worked through the development of the school improvement plan that we will hear at a meeting soon enough. And then Tim and I met with the Student Advisory Council last week. Last Wednesday as well. It was great. The representatives from each of the students was there except for the freshman class. I think the freshman student wasn't able to make it. And Leah Viola was there. So we talked about a few things. I've mentioned to Katie already that the high school students brought up the recess schedule at the elementary schools because they've been hearing about that. So that was very good of them to be paying it backward and helping out their elementary. So I know Katie is working on a plan for that, so they were happy to hear that. We talked a little bit about parking, about what they sort of felt were the issues. Interestingly, I think Slater was saying that one of the things that he notices about the parking that is a concern is that there are a lot of accidents in the far lot because there are so many inexperienced drivers driving. So that was just sort of interesting. So I don't know, I felt like the kids weren't overly plussed by the parking situation, but there was an idea that I think Tim and Leah Viola both had about potentially doing a lottery system both semesters, like, so put everybody's name in the hat for the second semester and things could switch around a little bit. So something for them to discuss with, with Dr. Bucky. But it was good. And then really overall, I think the great news was that the kids reported that the culture and like vibe at the high school is really great right now. They credited the teachers just having a great experience this year. They felt that Dr. Bucky's leadership has been great. Acting Superintendent Roberts' leadership has really helped make a really positive change at the high school. So it was really good to hear. And then we asked Leah, was she feeling it with the children, with the students as well? And she said, oh yeah, you can definitely feel it in the classroom. And she said amongst the staff as well that it was really positive start to the school year. So it was good to hear.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's good. Thank you.
Sure.
Plymouth River School Council met on the 22nd, and we started going through the school improvement plan. And policy met, we joined the All-Town PTO last week, 2 weeks ago, 25th. And it was great just to hear some of their feedback and ideas, and we'll bring some of that forward in some of our future policies.
Great.
Finance and facilities, we met on October 25th, right before. I was like, gosh, a long time ago. So we also heard this wonderful presentation on all 3 roofs, and we won't go through all of that because we all just heard it tonight. And then we also discussed where we are falling on the electric buses. And just a quick update that the district has applied for a waiver with the EPA that'll extend the grant because we have to most likely go to town meeting for it. And the grant expires before we were to go to town meeting. So we're just waiting to hear back on that. A folder with you which has the minutes from our prior meeting and then the draft of these minutes so you guys can review those.
Thank you.
I'll just have them.
So last Wednesday, I attended the AdCom meeting, Katie was with me. Julie Straley had done a presentation on the override and how we got, as a town, how we got to the point that we needed an override. And then George Danis and Nancy McDonald had presented on the MOU, the history of it. The purpose for that was that there are a lot of new AdCom members, and so Tina Sherwood is the chair, and she felt as if it would be a good way to get them up to speed on the history and ask any questions that came up. I also attended 2 subcommittee meetings on the financial policy of the town. They are starting to discuss that again, so I thought that those were really interesting, and just talking about how the rating agencies look at fund balance and what is unassigned and available, how we calculate it versus how the bond agencies calculate it. So there are differences in how towns are doing it, so they're trying to look at it and make sure that they sync that up and have a good approach going forward. What else do I want to tell you? I think that's it. All right, anything else?
Under 48?
There is a under 48-hour subject, so I'm going to have Katie present that to us. Thank you.
Yes, so as many of you may be aware, in early October, we suffered a loss of a former student, Lauren McGrath, and the McGrath family is very much beloved by the Hingham community. And so we would like to propose this evening, with the generous support of the Plymouth River Middle School and High School PTOs, and additional private individuals in the community, we do hope to install a memorial bench in honor of Lauren. The bench will be placed along the walking path, a spot often frequented by community members who walk their dogs. And Lauren was a very big dog lover, and so the family felt that this would be a nice way to remember her. And so hoping that we can consider this request from the community.
Any questions? Yeah, I mean, the McGrath family has done so much, and it's, yeah. I'm sorry for the loss, but I think this would be a nice way to honor her. Okay. Yep.
I will make a motion to accept the grant of a memorial bench in the honor of Lauren McGrath from the PRS PTO, HMS PTO, and the Hingham High School PTO.
I will second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay, thank you. Thank you. All right. Okay, before we adjourn, the next couple meetings we have are coming up on November 18th at 6:30 and then December 2nd at 6:30. We are going to adjourn and exit to executive session, and we will not be returning to open session. Any questions before we do? All right, I'll take a motion.
I will make a motion to adjourn to executive session, not to return to open session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, for the purposes of to approve minutes from the executive session held on October 21st, 2024, as an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the public body, and the chair so declares.
I so declare.
To conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, the public discussion of which would be detrimental to the committee's bargaining position, and the chair so declares.
I so declare.
To discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation and act as appropriate if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigation position of the public body, and the chair so declares.
I so declare.
I will second.
All those in favor, Matt?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Carrie?
Aye.
Michelle?
Aye.
Ally?
Aye.
Jen?
Aye.
And I am an aye as well. We're adjourned. Thank you.